All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our April Lunch and Learn. Today we're talking mostly about the events management piece for WiscWeb related to the events calendar plugin, but we'll also do some demoing of some neat new tools that we added in the UW theme and one thing that's not UW theme related. So we're going to get started because we have a pretty hefty agenda today. So like last time, we have a full agenda. We are going to be starting by reviewing the results of the Qualtrics user survey. So if you recall, we sent out a little survey on events management that went out to users of WiscWeb. We are going to give you a recap of those results. Then we'll look at the themes from our March Lunch and Learn, where we chatted a bit about the events calendar stuff. Next, we'll be discussing our final decisions based on the data that we captured, as well as the data from our own user audit that we did, sort of a quantitative discovery effort. And then finally, we will chat next steps and we'll also have an opportunity for question answer. So first, we're going to dive into the user survey results. So as a really quick overview, the survey ran for about 3 weeks and we received roughly 80 responses. And the responses from the survey were extremely helpful in determining next steps. So I just want to thank you all for your feedback, much appreciated. First up is the question around what folks are currently using for advertising events on their sites. As you can see from the graph, events calendar is most widely used, followed by today.wisc and pages and posts. We were really surprised to see how many groups were using pages and posts for this purpose. So that was super interesting, something that we couldn't get from that user audit. And we also noted that Google Calendar had relatively low usage. In the other realm, that included Eventbrite, sending emails to Google Group, and that was about it. Next was how users would describe their website needs. This data differed slightly from what we observed in the usage audit, where we were looking at every single site using events calendar. We kind of dove in, like determined usage that we could observe. So it was really helpful to have this qualitative data to supplement that audit data. In our audit, we found that the majority of users had low complexity for events, and then a smaller portion had medium or highly complex needs. In this user survey, however, the number of groups having lower or medium needs were about equal, and additionally, highly complex needs were a little bit higher than what we would have guessed. So 14% versus about 5%. So this data was extremely helpful. It helps demonstrate the value of supplementing quantitative data with qualitative data. So based on this, event needs were more complex in general than we originally anticipated, or at least that's how you all kind of observed your own needs. So I apologize in advance if this graph is a little difficult to read, but I will walk through it all. I just know that there's a lot of content kind of stretched out there and it might be a little bit small. This graph indicates the features that were of highest importance to our users. So in red, we have the items that were the highest overall. And so that included things like simple date, time, location, short description, and hyperlinks. In blue, we have the next highest needs. These included longer descriptions, including images and setting recurring events. In green, we have some medium level needs, things like buttons, a Google map, registration, and sharing events between sites. And finally, in yellow, we have things that came up the least often, which was the payment processing and embedded content like videos. In the other realm, we saw answers like integrating a calendar with Office 365, social media compatibility, and tags and categories. We also had an open-ended question in the survey. Is there anything else that you'd like us to know about your event management needs? And we read through every response, all of which were very helpful and interesting. We won't share every response here due to time, but these were the overarching themes that we observed. 5 users specifically highlighted the value of displaying images for events. This is a feature that isn't offered in either Google Calendar or today.wisc, so it was helpful to know that that was highly valued for some. 4 users noted having registration needs. This was something that Events Calendar never offered, but is an interesting need to note when considering event management as a whole at the university. And 3 people noted needing event categories. Specifically, groups wanted to be able to display calendars on individual pages based on a grouping or category. So those were the primary themes that we observed in the qualitative feedback. And speaking of themes, we also reviewed the recording from the March Lunch and Learn, where we initially introduced this topic. And there were a couple themes observed there as well. For features, groups noted wanting something that integrated with their website, so kind of looked like it fit in with the UW theme. Something that offered categorization, something that provided an option for uploading imagery, and something that offered the ability to share events between sites. In regards to timeline, we heard that summer was the best time for you all to make the switch to a new tool, as it often is the best time for having additional items added to your plate, just because things slow down a little bit for most. And you also value having as much time as possible to make the change. So based on that usage audit that we conducted, so more of that quantitative discovery effort, the qualitative survey that we sent around to our users, the March Lunch and Learn discussion, and the March Lunch and Learn discussion, we've made a decision on an alternative to Events Calendar, and we wanted to share that decision with you today. So rather than investing in another vendor plugin that doesn't quite meet the needs, and or we just didn't feel comfortable supporting, we have decided to build our own in-house plugin for use solely within WiscWeb. The in-house plugin will be a simple events custom post type that offers the following options. It has integration with the site, so it's going to look branded within the site. It has the option to include imagery, buttons, hyperlinks, maps, short and long descriptions. It has an option to embed content, has the ability to set categories and display on different pages based on category. It has a page element for display rather than a short code, so it just makes it a little bit easier for placement. And it offers a list view display. Our goal is to build this as a basic plugin to start that meets the most pressing needs that we observed. And then we have the option to keep adding new features over time as we learn more about user needs. So understanding kind of where the pain points lie or where the needs lie, and then we can adjust as needed. This is what we felt was feasible for our small team given the time constraints, and then long-term supportability considerations, things like that. So I wanted to touch on this so you were fully aware that unfortunately no solution is going to accommodate everything that a user may need. So as I said, we're prioritizing the most needed features first, and for full transparency, there are some things that are not included. So at least initially, our homegrown solution will not accommodate recurring events, sharing events between sites, registration for events, or a calendar view display. There's various reasons here, but essentially those just required a lot more in-depth discovery, testing, development, etc., or introduce barriers for us in general. Okay, so finally, we wanted to share some next steps with you all. For the WiscWeb team, we will continue building and testing this custom plugin. We're creating KB documentation on its use, and we're going to start scheduling training sessions and listening sessions for users so that you have a means for learning more about this tool. In the May Lunch and Learn, which is scheduled for May 11th, we hope to share a demo of the custom plugin with you all and share a timeline for migration. We're going to start as early as possible in order to include the summer months because we knew that was important, and it will likely run through fall. We are still kind of running up against that security issue where we don't want to leave the events calendar plugin unpatched for too long. So as much as possible, we want to give you time, but we also need to consider that security piece. And then for users, the next steps will be reviewing the options available. So you're going to have a couple different options. This custom plugin you can use, Google Calendar and today.wisc.edu, and we'll have some guidance, but essentially it'll be based on your needs. And then choosing an alternative approach and manually building your content. So there isn't going to be like an automated migration option. You will have to rebuild your content. All right. So that concludes the information that I have for you. And now things are open for questions.
Or comments or observations.
Yeah, so I see Linda put in there the ability to share events to other sites. This custom plugin does not allow that capability. If you're looking for sharing between sites, Google Calendar or today.wisc would be your best bet. Duplicate a post and change the date. Yes, you will be able to duplicate a post and change the date.
So that's something that I'll have to make sure that I document for. I'm working on the KB for it. I can't remember if I did document that. Yes, I did.
Yes,
but essentially there's a functionality. So the plugin is the Yoast duplicate plugin. There's settings that exist within the duplicate post plugin that you have to go and make sure you will authorize the events plugin that we're using to allow the duplicate post plugin to work with them.
Yes.
So yes, you can duplicate, but there's a step you have to do before to allow that process to happen. So Stuart, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead and unmute and ask. Go.
Great,
Go ahead.
thanks. Thank you. Just a quick question in terms of appearing on other sites.
Yes.
Would we still use the today.wisc for that then? So for instance, when we collaborate with partners like College Library or the Graduate School, I tag them and then it also appears in their event feeds. We would continue that operation.
So if you're using Today currently, you can continue using Today, today.wisc. The page element will still be there. It'll work the same way. If you're creating events that way, you can continue using that process.
Great. My second question is this new plugin, is there an ability to create a way that it would feed the today.wisc or import those so that I could enter one calendar event that would feed today.wisc rather than creating
go back.
Rather than creating two separate. So what I do is I build something on our site and then I go make a today.wisc post, and it feels like there's a little bit of duplication of labor.
Sure, that would be something. So we will have a similar process to what we do now with feature requests. So once we make this available widely, we would recommend submitting a feature request for anything like that so that we can gauge broad needs, and then we can prioritize that effort for this plugin. So that would be something that we would recommend submitting that way.
Okay.
Looking at the questions, it looks like Jeff has a question. Will this custom plugin be made available for other orgs like UWSA for wisconsin.edu? At this time, the plugin will only be available for WiscWeb, and that's because there is a significant amount of effort that we need to put in to make sure that we understand we have like a policy in place, a process in place for sharing more widely. That goes for any of our plugins. We don't have that in place yet. So at this time, it would only be available for WiscWeb use. Becky asks, what will happen to our previous events? Will they be archived in some way? So I'll let the devs jump in if they have particular notes here, but my understanding is that what we would be looking for you all to do is manually recreate your events in either Google Calendar, today.wisc, or this custom plugin. And then when you're done, we would request that you deactivate Events Calendar. Regardless of whether or not you physically deactivate, eventually we'll be deactivating the plugin and you would lose access at that time, but you would have access for a certain number of months, like at least 6 months.
Yeah, there's some complications in there for like what we're going to do, because one of the thoughts I had was, could you just export your events to Google Calendar? Except it's not quite as smooth as I would like it to be, so that you could have that archive. I'm still tinkering with that, testing that to see what might happen. with that process. But yeah, there's no definitive answer yet as to what we would hope to do there.
Yep. It looks like we have a question from Michael. Can we export our current events for reference? Okay, sorry, you covered that. Blah, blah, blah. JD asks, what column formats will the events list element be available in? That's a great question. I can't, I know it's at least 1 and 2.
It's 2 and I think it's, I was going to say 2 and 3. I haven't tested it in 1. So
I think it might be Scott, do you happen to know the answer to that one?
Yeah, it's available in all 3. It works very similar to the post listing page element. So it kind of mimics that, but just specifically for events.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
The page editor will, so it is essentially we're using the backbones of the posts functionality to drive this plugin. So the default things that you can do in your normal posts, you can do in this particular event post functionality as well. So you will have the text editor there, so you can add media, stylize the text a little bit more. You'll have access to the code view and things like that. The text view, I should say.
Categories, featured image.
You'll create categories, but no page elements will exist in there. It's just the default editor will appear in there. Alan, WiscWeb is a concern. I mean, at the moment, yes. That's just because of the fact that we're building this to meet the needs of what we have in WiscWeb right now.
Yeah,
go ahead.
There is going to be some communication to the broader campus community coming from Do It Communications for this very reason. So targeting those groups that might not be in WiscWeb, that may be using events calendar, and might want to make a decision. Essentially, if you are using events calendar outside of WiscWeb, there's a chance it's working for you. It doesn't work in our instance because we have a very large multi-site, and we think that's a good part of why it's not working. But there are groups that are using events calendar 6 point, whatever X point. X and it's working just fine for them. They can continue using events calendar. There's no one requiring you to get off of it if you're using it successfully outside of WiscWeb. However, we are noting that you may want to keep your tools in alignment, or maybe want to switch because you're also having issues with events calendar, and we're offering advice on tools to use in that email that will go out. It sounds like it should be going out within the next week or so. So stay tuned on that. Is it possible? So Linda asks, is it possible to have the categories be their own group for events? I have so many categories. Yes, it is an events category grouping. So it's not tied to general categories. It is event categories, if that helps. Alan says, currently we don't use events calendar, so not an issue for us, but would love, a better today. Okay, so yes, I think there's a larger discussion happening on campus about events management. Yeah.
There is a broader conversation and discussion about like how to manage events on campus, because there's no, it's not a pain. It's a legitimate question, because like we used events calendar because it worked for us at the start, and then we also integrated today.wisc. Well, today.wisc isn't it's not updated on a regular basis. There's not much to it for feature functionality, etc. So events calendar worked better because it provided more functionality. But now we've run into this newer complication, which is the fact that it just breaks with the way that we have grown. We have grown to such an extent that these plugins aren't meant for us. They're really not. They're meant for small installments. We are not a small installment. So, now we've had to sort of minimize back down to nice versus, or I'm sorry, needed versus nice to have. And so then, now we'll continue to expand that out. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what the future holds for the plugin. Would it be great if we can push this out to other people? Yes. We just don't know what that's going to look like. Because again, our conversation.
Yeah. Like Matt said, there's a larger conversation happening on campus. I think a lot of folks are aware that event management needs are broad and diverse on campus, and that the tools that exist currently might not be the best match for the complexity that some folks need. I know that there is some exploration happening into like the event registration space that's not in WiscWeb, that's outside of WiscWeb, but it would likely be like a campus tool if they are able to choose one there. But just in general, I will just say, yes, larger conversations are happening around events management in general. So hopefully some cool things come of that. We have potentially things to look forward to in the future. What other questions do we have?
And just to kind of go on that, next steps right now is just we're going to continue testing it because we want to make sure it works, and we want to make sure it works with sites that are going to push it to its limits. The hope is to demo it next month at the Lunch and Learn, which is the 11th, and then hopefully have it available sometime near then as well.
Yeah, our hope is that that day we can make it available for people to start building, and we'll have all of the documentation available, and we'll also start to schedule out like a listening session or two that we can record so that people have, some guidance on how to build, things like that. Other questions? All right. Well, if you have questions, looks like, okay. Thank you for that.
No,
thank you, Sheena. Thank you. Thank you so much. If we have other questions on this topic, please feel free to add them and we can always come back. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Matt can do a little demo of some of the new features. Some of the new features that have been added to the UW theme.
Yeah, hold on a sec. I need to bring up my list of things that I need to chat about. So thank you for the response. Again, we can't say that enough. We know that this is a big change. We know this is a big decision that will have some impacts on everyone. And we don't do this lightly, I think, like we've said, but we have to do this to make sure that, one, we maintain the security and the integrity of our system, but two, we just want to make sure that we meet as much of the needs as we can. So please know that while what we deliver will be somewhat light in what's there, it will be an iterative functionality. I think Scott and Andrea both have enjoyed the challenge of trying to build something that meets those needs. And I think they're eager to continue to kind of build it out to meet some more needs. So the more feedback we get, the more questions we get, the more feature requests that we get regarding it, I think will help drive a lot of what, at least from a web services standpoint, a lot of what we can do for event management. But yeah, so just keep on being vocal. All right, share my screen.
Hold on. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand in Zoom, so I'm just going to butt in.
If you had your camera on, you could wave to me.
No. One thing that wasn't mentioned is that we did also develop the plugin with the events calendar currently in mind. So if you have both plugins active, that will work as expected. Instead of like /events showing all of your events, it'll be UW events. So that'll give folks the ability to kind of keep both active, move content over as needed. And then when you turn off the events calendar while keeping the new plugin on, it'll just automatically change those URLs. So we're kind of designing it with the thought of migration in our heads so that people can have a nice path forward.
Yeah, great addition. Thank you, Scott. We'll try to make sure to demo that in May too, so that you can kind of see that. But Essentially, don't be alarmed by the fact that your events will be publishing to a different permalink for a while. Once you deactivate events calendar, they will switch to /events. Oh, Matt's are you demoing it now? Oh, you're
No.
you're doing the
I was just
okay, I was like, whoa.
No. That'll leave them wanting more. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I think my screen can be seen. Could this screen be seen?
Yes.
Okay.
Really quick, Becky has a question here about events, so I'm going to just answer that quickly. We do have over 150 events in events calendar. It's going to be a lot of work to manually recreate these. We would really like to have some sort of reference archive at least, so any way to export just to Excel or something. I think Matt touched on this a little bit. There are some ways to export. You can export to like Google Calendar. You might be able to export. Can you export as a CSV?
I don't know. No, you can't because all right. So let me just show this real quick, just so you guys can see what I did for my testing purposes. So when I was starting to take a look at this, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to see what the export or what the import into Google Calendar was going to look like. So I used Wiseman because at the time Wiseman was the one that had the most events that I needed to look at. So I exported the ICS file and then I went into my Google Calendar and I then imported that into that particular calendar and I just named it Wiseman. No editing functionality to this. It's just simply reference.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how far back it goes.
I think to answer the question, it's possible to have some sort of archive. It would be potentially in Google Calendar.
I don't think it's possible to have. I don't think it's possible to have an archive.
Oh, okay.
Because I know for certain. The problem is, I think because of the way that calendar functionality is built, it's built to look forward. It's not really built to archive. It's only built to show what's coming. Now, all of those things will still exist within the events calendar because you've created them. So I don't know if we have a specific way to export them. But the problem is when you are subscribing to something, when you are exporting something, you are exporting what's going to happen. You are not exporting what happened. And that's the issue that we run into with this. And events calendar itself doesn't have a specific, like I've researched this in their knowledge base. They don't have a specific way to export out their database or export out from the database. So that's the issue. The issue is not so much can you do it, it's the fact that my assumption is that people want things that have happened. And that's where the issue lies, is it doesn't care about what happened. What happened, it's gone. It's looking forward, and it does that sort of that functionality. So
it looks like Nick noted that if you are comfortable with VS Code and are familiar with the tool, you might be able to export ICS files and edit those within VS Code. We have not tested this process, so I'm unaware of what that might look like.
Yeah, it'll take some looking at for us to figure out like where best to do this. There we go. There's my. Can't find all my windows because I have 3 monitors now and I still lose things. Okay, sorry. Let me just. To reuse reusable content in the new event. So yes, Linda, because that's a short code. So like when you create that shareable content, it creates a short code. That short code gets consumed in any text editor. So if you have something that is a shared content short code, you can just keep using it in any text area there. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so yeah, I mean that's. We'll have to do some. we have thoughts. Our team is chatting at the moment. There are
we're chatting over like what's
you can
possible.
see all the little chat messages popping up down here. The team is talking about it in the background. We have
Good question.
So, yes, we acknowledge it is a need. We're going to continue to look into it. We're not just going to pull the rug out from under everybody and just say, okay, events calendar's gone by. We'll make sure that we try to address these questions as best as we can. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's just demo real quick a few of the things, and then we can get back to the.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead, Linda.
This is Linda. I took myself off mute.
Yep, go ahead.
So we have a number of events that we do, and I do fairly complicated, I guess, maybe descriptions with tables and so forth, describing, all sorts of stuff, speakers, whatever, and then images. And so we've got all those events that we hang on to because then sometimes we reuse them. So I think maybe what other people are asking is there a way to like capture that great information so that we can copy it in the new events calendar to have just to have it on hand? And I'm not asking you guys to have an answer, but I'm just wondering if this is something other people are interested in, and maybe, I don't know, should we have a group talk about what might be the best way to grab all this info to have on hand for future event planning or posting?
I noted this need. So I think what needs to happen is our team needs to chat internally a little bit about like what might be possible, because it might be something where there's some sort of a existing process where it'll allow you to at least get a copy of that data. It might not look like formatted the same way, but if you just need like the text, we'll look into those options, and we'll try to have some notes for the May lunch and learn for sure. It looks like, yeah, you could also use a default WordPress export tool. So I think Matt's about to show this. You can export to
Matt's only doing this because it's in his brain at the moment, and he wants to share this with Scott so that Scott and Andrea can take a look after the fact.
Yeah, so Scott's noting that, so if you go to tools export, there is an option to export events. It's creating it as an XML file, so it might not be the most helpful format for you, but we'll explore options on what might be possible there. So yes, technically you'd have the data, but whether or not you can grab it and put it into a new post is kind of hazy. Nick mentions, what did we do last year? Question in the event. Yeah. So good point, Nick. As Linda said, sometimes it's helpful to have that information because you do the same events year to year and you want to have the same description. Nick's also mentioning VS Code. We'll test that option as well. I'm just not sure if that's a tool that everyone will feel comfortable with or have on their computers. Matt's showing VS Code here. This is VS Code.
Here you go, folks. Let's just take a real quick look.
Also known as Visual Studio Code.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, what we're looking at. Yeah. So like I said, I grabbed. So what I did was I exported this. It's down to, I'm at 95,000 lines of something in there. So what do we do with these 95,000 lines of something? That's something that we'll have to look at as a team and try and figure it out. But like we said, we know the needs there. So let's give us some time to dig into it and figure out what we can do best to meet your need.
We have another question from Becky. Sorry, another question. So if the calendar view is going away, will the new events posts have some way for people to go back and view previous events? Can we create a page that allows people to view events for earlier dates? I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the plugin is currently intended for future events in the list view. Is that correct?
In the list view, that is true, but it'll have normal kind of archiving capabilities similar to every normal
Posts.
posts that
Post type,
exist
yeah.
within WordPress.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like the page elements and such will show upcoming events.
Yeah.
All of that content and data is still accessible through the site for old events that have passed.
So what we'll do, Becky, is we will note how you can link to that archive page if you desire, so that your users have a way of looking back. Jeff notes, Power Query within Excel might be an option for parsing the XML export. That might be easier than VS Code. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, good idea. We'll take a deeper dive.
Yeah, I think Andrea noted in our chat as well. It looks like the archive, like the export that I did, it still is only looking for today forward. So that's the problem that we're running into. Same thing with when I was doing this via.
I don't think that was about the export. That was about the archives in the current plugin.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry. Many chats going on. Many conversations. Sorry. Okay. We'll come back to this. I promise. Let me get through my other stuff. All right. So we really quick updates regarding the UW theme, and then I want to show something for Gravity Forms as well. So first things first, we added the ability to add preferred pronouns to a user's faculty staff page. So you can add that in now as part of the faculty staff member listing. You'll have to go back in time to do this there, but if we update, and then how this shows. Oh.
I was gonna say, I think you need to check the box.
Sorry, I do. Yeah, I know. I do this
Push
all
the
the time.
button.
It is an option. So it is one of the options that you have to check. Sorry, my bad. Again, brain going 1,000 miles a minute.
That's a good point, though. It does not default to check. It defaults to
doesn't.
unchecked.
So it shows up like that. So we've added that. That was something that was requested some time ago for that function. We've also added the ability to customize the image carousel buttons. So content title, this is a, yeah. And then now the button link, you can have it go to a page or a post. So now I can update it to W. Madison. Ooh, I should probably add an image just to, make it look like it should look. Bad image, but essentially this is what you'll end up with now. So we've added that function as well. That was something that has been long coming, which is the ability to change this from learn more to something else that matters, like register or, find out more or person's page, something of that nature. Jump links for the group of links page element. All right, so let's test one. Okay, I think I've got them all there. All right. So now if I go up here and I add the group of links, it's buttons, font large, blue, etc. Okay, so add link, link name, jump one. We have now the option in that drop down which says in-page link. You have to remember what you titled them. Okay. Remember when you're making jump links, when you're making these row IDs, don't
Also
use spaces. Don't use spaces and use lowercase values there, and Jenna.
remember to add a hashtag.
Well, oh yeah, that's right, up here.
Otherwise it won't work.
Nope, you're right. You have to add the hashtag up there to actually create the jump link down below. Now they show up. There's my group of links. That's how they work now. So that functionality now exists as well. I think those are the only three significant things. There's more in the article that we posted with just some of the stylistic changes, some things with button or spacing for bulleted and numbered lists, just to tighten those things up a little bit. But these are the major like visual things that or interactive things that we wanted people to be aware of. And then last thing is ye old gravity. This is in prod, right? Yep, there it is. So if you remember a couple months ago at a Lunch and Learn, I mentioned that Gravity Forms had updated to allow these custom templates. I shouldn't say custom, these predefined templates that would automatically add certain fields to your forms for you. We delayed on launching this because of the fact that some of these forms are templates for things that simply aren't allowed in WiscWeb. So things like registration for anything, any types of money, monetary compensation or collection, linking to things like PayPal, email services like MailChimp and Constant Contact. That these templates refer to these things, and we don't have that functionality built in. So you're going to get that little modal pop up the next time you go to Gravity Forms. You just click the X in the upper right. That'll get rid of it. But what I want you to see is what we've done is we have simply removed visually those options that just aren't things that we would allow in WiscWeb. So we've boiled it down to the contact forms. So they're starting points. But we want you to be aware of the fact that this is now the new way to build a new form. Blank form is as you have done it in the past, but there are these two template values that do exist. And when I use this, it comes in with all of these various predefined layout, this predefined layout. So just be aware of that. Oh, hi.
Worth noting, be careful with what you ask users to put in, because even looking at this one, there's a lot of information in there that's a little scary to be asking of people and potential students. So
yep.
Best to remember HIPAA trainings and don't ask for sensitive or restricted data. If you have any doubts about it, odds are it is probably something you shouldn't be asking. So be smart about stuff. Don't ask for things that are scary.
Yes.
I will also note that simple open-ended questions can result in personal health information being entered. So if you have a form like why did you have a dip in your grades last quarter, someone could say something about mental health or something that could be more personal health information. So if you have anything like that where there could be answers that way, we highly recommend reaching out to us so that we can find secured options that are more secured for sensitive restricted data.
We should update this page now that it doesn't need to be learn more anymore. Anyways, the question was asked in the chat about our just some examples of an image carousel. Here's our sort of like our intro, our welcome page to just kind of welcome people to the service.
We should
And this
also
is the
update. We should
Yeah, I know.
update that picture of the KB. It's really old styles. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that's the old style.
Old styles. Very old.
Yeah.
I'll
Wow.
change, I'll change that button too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that button is weird. It's not button.
They're the old buttons.
It's the style. Yeah, it's the old style. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let me think. Anything else? Let me just check real quick because we are going to be updating WP data tables soon. I just want to see if that change has happened, or if the change came with the last update that I made. Not yet. Okay, hang on. The new Scott, did you push this to QA, the updated data tables?
It should be there, yeah.
All right. Why do I have to? I'm already authenticated. All right, phone's over here.
QA and dev use different NetID sessions.
It shouldn't be. I don't think I remember having to do that. Okay. Let's see if it's here. So one of the things that you are prompted for now, that you will be prompted for your data tables, is this description area as well. So when you're creating your table, you will have this description over here. So the description is something that is going to appear in the tables column now. And this is something that I think people should look back to do, which is it allows you to provide a little more context to maybe the use of or the purpose of the table, so that people who are coming in to either update the table or taking over the site will have a better idea of what that table is used for. I've had that conversation many a time. So I want to make sure that people are just aware of this change, and this will be coming when we push data tables out, maybe next week. Can't remember when we're going to do this. I think it's next week that we're going to do this. So just be aware of the fact that this change is coming. Go in, update the descriptions for the tables that you feel like really need to be, I guess, described for your users. So, all right. Trying to think. That's all that I have on my list for things we wanted to chat about today. So we can go back and talk more about events stuff if you'd like. I got a chance to speak. So, any other questions? Any other thoughts? I'll stop sharing.
Matt, this is Linda.
Yes.
The
Hi.
anchor buttons you did,
Yeah.
are they something new, or were you just showing us how to do them?
They're
What was
not
new about them.
What was new about them is the fact that you can so in the past, these buttons, when you created the group of links option, we refer to it as the button cloud. When you created the button cloud, or when you created any of these group of links functionalities, if you wanted to link to something further down in the page, you had to put in the full URL. So instead of just test
yeah.
one, I would have
Yep.
had to put in that whole URL right there to make that jump work. So the devs, what they did was they now actually created the function. So this function automatically generates this, and then you're just providing the jump point in there now. So it's just,
Okay.
it's convenience. We created convenience.
And I
Thank
think
you.
the other part of it too is prior to when you had the full URL in, it would actually fully reload the page.
Yes. Yep.
Whereas this one will just jump you throughout. So
Jump.
it will cause another request to happen.
Yep. Keep the cookies and the cache clean. All right. Any other? I am satiated. Yes, indeed. Let's think. Looking ahead. So obviously UW events. That will be the next big thing coming down the pipeline. We're updating WordPress proper sometime in the near future here. Data tables is getting an update, but I've already showed you what that update is going to entail. We have a few more theme features coming in as well. Some style updates that will, I think people will be happy about. I don't know what else is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's mostly it. You said Google Analytics 4.
Did I say Google Analytics 4?
I
did not say.
couldn't remember.
Thank you.
That's coming up.
Sorry. Yeah. Gentle, friendly reminder that July 1st, 2023 is barreling down on you all. Remember that Google Analytics will stop collecting data via the old Universal Analytics tag. It will only collect data via the Google Analytics 4 tag. So make sure that you update your analytics appropriately. Please reach out to me, set up some off hours with me. We can go through that. I guess I shouldn't say I do know. I am aware and am equally annoyed at the fact that finding the information that you really want in Google Analytics 4 is not easy. So, yeah, I mean, the data, the data is there, but you don't get it as nicely as Universal Analytics gave it to you. So, let's look at. Here's WiscWeb Global. So, this is what you see. Basically, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at pages and screens over here because this is going to tell me what things are happening. So, for example, as is usually the case, something from the Writing Center is number 1 in our analytics list. Over the past week or over the past month, roughly, it has gotten 67, almost 68,000 views. That's kind of where I'm at right now. As I've said, we unfortunately lost Jonathan. He took another position here on campus. Good for him, bummer for us, because that's a lot of knowledge for Google that we lost when he took that other position. And we just don't have anyone even in the shadow of what he knew for Google. And so we're struggling to help people with Google stuff. We really are. And we just don't have an answer for it. So I can give you best effort to try and dink around in there, but I promise you, I won't find anything too deep in there. So, but it's frustrating. They changed a lot of what was good. I have had this conversation with people before. Much like plugins not being built for something that is ye old WiscWeb, Google Analytics is not built for things that are higher education. Google Analytics is really built for business and, finding information to help you sell and make money. And yes, we want to earn money from, stuff, but that's not our goal. That's not our purpose. Most of our purpose. The data is just not built for what we are interested in. So you have to really create. There's this library. The library is where you could go to create reports. And then from those reports, find some of that information that you're looking for, but it's complicated. I think Ellen's still here, Ellen Clark from the registrar's office. Jonathan helped her build a build a report out for search terms, finding the search terms that are used through your site. That used to be something that was easily accessible in the menu. It's not easily accessible anymore. He had to help her build something out. It's a bummer. But anyways, get yourselves over to Google Analytics 4. Hard to get excited about that, but yeah. Yeah, it's built for commerce now. Let's see. Yeah, so Google Analytics, make sure you're getting that moved over. Reach out to me at any point if you want to have somebody walk through it with you. More than happy to. But that's about all we can really dig into, unfortunately. Lots of things coming up. Jen and I have office hours. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, if you'd like to tinker around with some of this event stuff leading up to us releasing the new plugin and even after the fact. I think I'll do, part of me wants to do a bit of a demo before the Lunch and Learn because I don't want to release it the day of. I'd like to have a build up to it and then we can answer some more questions. I don't know. There's part of me wants to demo it beforehand, but we'll have to talk about that. Because I feel like dropping it that day and then demoing it that day will overwhelm us a little bit. Maybe leading up to it might be a better idea. We should just chat.
Yeah, we can chat.
Yeah. All right. I'm not even watching the chat. What's going on?
I think that's about it. I think most of the other comments. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to respond to Linda, and you already did, and Nick also responded. I mean, Google Analytics 4 is an add-on. It's something that you don't need to use for your website. I mean, we do say if you want to learn more about how your website's being used, you should use analytics. The privacy concerns, that's a broader conversation. So recently there have been some federal changes to the way that data is collected and HIPAA concerns. We have a few spaces here on campus that fall under those HIPAA rules. So that is a concern. It is a concern that has been brought forward to the cybersecurity team. That's about where we are right now. We're aware of it, and there is a group being formulated to sort of dig into what is next for that.
And that's a higher level discussion than WiscWeb,
That's-
so there will likely
That's
be
campus level.
broad campus communications about that.
Yep.